Well, welcome everyone to Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross, where we are your resource for education, connection, and collaboration. And today I am excited to have with me Dr. Tom Ingegno, right?
Ingegno,
Ingegno.
yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
It's
see,
okay.
I just dumped. Anyway, Ingegno. Tom is a clinician, a speaker. He is the best-selling author of the Cupping book and the visionary behind Charm City Integrative Health. He's bringing today with him a wealth of knowledge and experience, and he's here today to guide you on a journey towards optimal health through practical systems that can easily be incorporated into your daily routine. So, Tom, I want to thank you very much for being with us here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sorry about the laugh.
No, it's all right. I have somebody that make sure they share all these when they go live, and every one of them, she's like, "No one's gotten your name right," and I'm like, "Yeah," and they won't. It's fine.
Well, and it's funny because your name is spelled almost like my maiden name used to be Gang, and it's just four letters, and people couldn't get that right either. So, anyway, I apologize.
Yeah, you're fine.
So tell us, what inspired you to embark on the journey in Eastern Asian medicine?
So that's one that I think I get asked all the time, because I think that helps people connect with you, right? Why are you doing this? I wanted to be a doctor when I was growing up. I wanted to help people, and I thought really like the MD pathway was the only way. A bunch of things that I always describe as serendipitous kind of just happened. Including my grandfather was a pharmacist, and one day I was helping him in the pharmacy, and he was counting out pills, and he said, these pills are $5 a piece. This guy has to take 3 of them a day for the rest of his life. The guy happened to be like a migrant worker, only getting like cash at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, he's got a family he's trying to raise and take care of. This is crippling to him. And he said something like, there's got to be a better way, and I'm hoping you find it. Now, I stored that in my memory bank, completely forgot about it. My grandfather passed probably a year or two later. And I was sitting in college one night, and literally that message came running back to me. And I'm sitting at my desk trying to study and in tears. And while I was in college, I was actually taking a Chinese philosophy course. It was a liberal arts college, and a Tai Chi, like after school class. And the principles of balance really kind of resonated with me in both of those areas. When I entered my junior year, I got a postcard in the mail in the winter break for an acupuncture school. And by the time I started my second semester of my junior year, I was also enrolled in my graduate program, which, nice. I never looked back after that. But it was almost like it was going to happen whether or not I was trying.
Yeah. And it's amazing how we get stuck in these, different circles, because I didn't even find out about acupuncture, stuff like that, until many, many years, and nowadays, I mean, a lot of the medications people have to take are way more than $5 a pill.
Yeah.
And I think we went so far away. I mean, there's a place for Western medicine, but I love the Eastern Asian medicine route that you have, because people used to heal way back when, before we even had all that.
And I think we're seeing a resurgence of that, right? None of us want to be on a pill the rest of our lives. No. None of us, think, oh, I can just, forget about everything and just go on living my life, right? Even when we're eating now, we're going like, oh, this isn't good for me. This is all right for me. And we have that intuitive sense, and that's what East Asian medicine really relies on, is that intuitive sense. So what we're trying to do is just nudge your body into the direction where it's going to take better care of itself. And I think that's why so many people are starting to turn to it now.
Yeah, it is really amazing. I mean, I know some people shy away from acupuncture because of needles, and they definitely don't like needles, but those are nothing like the the regular needles, and there's a lot of benefits to it. Yeah. But can you share the pivotal moment that led you to writing the book of the ancient practice of cupping?
Yeah, so I every few years I'll go through this kind of like burnout. My goal is to help as many people as possible. And I was sitting there going, there's no way I can work 6 days a week, 7 days a week if I really wanted to, treat all day, all night, and I won't even scratch the population of the city I'm in. And when you dedicate yourself to trying to help people, you constantly want to refine that, extend that, and look at other sources. How can I impact more people? And it comes down to the fact that if you give people knowledge and they use it, that's where you have the
Yeah,
big
you have
effect.
to use it.
I can sit there and teach you anything, but if you're not willing to use it. So it seemed like the book format, it actually kind of lined up around COVID when my clinic was closed for a couple of months. And I wrote about 80% of it during those 3 months. And then put it back on the shelf because I got back to the clinic and it was literally full of doctors and nurses and physicians assistants and everybody that was just going through the struggle of the hospital life because it was still like fully raging then.
Right.
But it kind of also gave me this kind of, oh wow, if all the Western practitioners are coming to see us, right? They get it too, right? This is a different time.
Yeah.
And then what had happened, and this is probably why it took several years post COVID, was we were just too damn busy in the office. Everyone's had that light bulb go off, going, "Oh my God, no one's really going to take care of me." Yeah, and I have to invest in my health, and that's where I really think the clinic exploded. I think that's where we started to look more at traditional practices too. So there's this real convergence around cupping because it's a traditional practice that doesn't it isn't associated with just one culture. This spread all over the ancient world.
Okay, so we lost you there for a second,
Yeah.
but we have you, but we have you back, and we were not going to talk about those issues anymore.
No, we're not.
So, Tom, maybe can you tell people, for those that are watching that are not very familiar, what exactly cupping is and what it does?
Yeah, so cupping is a way of applying a cup. Traditionally, they were made out of bamboo or buffalo horn or glass jars, clay pots. And today we can make them out of silicone, plastic, all these different materials. But basically, we create a vacuum with that and we attach it to the surface of the skin. And by doing that, we're pulling the skin away from the fascia away from the muscles, and we're allowing for more circulation to come through those deeper tissues. And that alleviates pain, helps open up the lungs, can help with digestion. And those are the big main uses. Everyone that has maybe seen the after effects of cupping recognizes it by those perfectly circular red bruises, which essentially are a hickey,
Yeah, as I say, if you're not familiar with it, you might think it's a hickey or somebody beat the snot out of you.
Yeah,
It leaves some marks on you.
It is so weird that it is the shape of the cup though, so it's normally perfectly circular. And it does look like you stood in front of a pitching machine or something.
There you go, batting cage.
Yeah.
You didn't do very well. Yeah, that's fascinating. I didn't even know they were made out of different materials, because the only thing I have ever seen is the glass, and they would light it with a lighter to get the.
And that's the traditional method. That's the method most of us use in our clinics as acupuncturists. But modern day tools, and you asked me like why write this book. Modern day tools have like pretty much taken the fire out, and they've taken any possibility of the cups breaking out too. So you really have eliminated two big things, which was, this was traditionally a home practice anyway. And then, look, I can use a pump, plastic cups, they'll never break. And I don't have to deal with fire. So we've made it even safer than it already was, which was pretty damn safe if you knew what you were doing.
Yeah. But if you're an at-home person trying to do it, you may risk burning yourself or something else, and that would be
or your house down. Yeah.
Yeah. So the blood circulation and stuff, is that the biggest benefit or the only benefit, or are there more
So,
benefits
so
to?
that kind of precipitates the other benefits, right? So you put the
Okay.
cups on, and depending on how hard you put them on, somebody goes, "Oh, that's a little tight," right? We don't want it to be excessive, where this is not a no pain, no gain situation, but we do need the suction to be moderate
Mhm.
to get a beneficial effect. But after a few minutes, and this is pretty interesting, talk about autonomic nervous system function or vagal tone or all these buzzwords for fight or flight versus rest and digest. That's the nuts and bolts of it, right?
Right.
When we do one, or we trick our body into doing something that is in that rest and digest category, all of the other things that come with that rest and digest kick in. So if we increase circulation, one of the rest and digest effects is opening up the blood vessels, vasodilation, right? So if we go, oh, wow, we got so much blood flowing, our blood vessels must be open. Our brain goes, oh, we got to be in rest and digest. And it'll slow down our heart rate. It'll have us taking deeper, slower breaths. We'll start sending out neurotransmitters that are like serotonin and dopamine will normalize. Those are our two big feel good ones. We'll start to make anandamide, which is an endocannabinoid. Ananda means bliss in Sanskrit. And it actually bonds to the same receptors marijuana does. So we get kind of this floaty kind of, oh, really relaxed. And when we do it in clinic, I tend to be a little sadistic. I put them on very tight in clinic, right? You're coming to a
Yeah.
professional. You're going to get a
Yes.
professional treatment, damn it.
Make sure you feel
But,
that.
but within normal limits. We're not trying to hurt anybody.
Right.
But within that, I'll come in after about 5 or 10 minutes, which is, a good chunk of time for the cups, and people be snoring. And they were like, "Oh, that one's a little tight. Okay, can you handle it? You want me to soften it up?" No, I'll deal with it. And then they're out, right? So we see that happening at home too. I had a friend confide in me. He's like, "Dude, I read your book. I had the cups. I put some on my shoulder, and I wasn't tired." But I fell asleep. He goes, I left the cup on. And I go, well, that's way, way too long. And I go, what happened? He goes, I got a really dark bruise and it's been a couple of weeks. I just saw him a few weeks ago. He said, oh, it went away after that. It was fine. But still, normally, like we're talking about a treatment that's like 5 to 15 minutes.
I was going to say, I guess that brings up another question. If you are doing this at home and
Yeah.
you do fall asleep and there's no one there to like wake you up and
Wake up.
say, hey.
Yeah, and in his defense, he's got a high stress job. He put the cups on, going, "Yeah, I'm not going to feel anything." And well, I don't know what happened, man.
It was non-believers.
It was like he was sitting in his relaxed chair, and instead of a glass of whiskey, he threw some cups on and went right out. But that's a positive. I don't even want to call it a side effect, but another benefit that somebody might not be intentionally using the cups for. I mean, the biggest thing is going to be neck and shoulder, low back pain, the muscle aches, and the silicone cups, the plastic cups come in so many different sizes that you can do things like your upper arm and your forearms and your calves and your thighs, where like the standard glass cups, you really want a nice flat broad muscle to get those on. So we can put them almost anywhere on the body, but it's always a little bit trickier.
Yeah, and if you're going to do them on your back, you kind of definitely need someone you can kind of trust.
Yeah, and that's
wants to get even with you.
Not somebody that's going to go, all right, I'll be back, and then
Yeah.
just leave. Yeah, but it is so simple that for a long time, my younger daughter's 11 now, and she's been putting them on my back since she had the physical strength to actually press the silicone cups down. So that's probably about 5, 6, sometimes they weren't in the right spots, but she was able to do it.
Well, that's something else. There you go.
Yeah. It's horseshoes and hand grenades too, with cupping, right? We don't have
Right.
to be laser like in our, you can say, oh, this is tight. Okay. Just put a bunch of cups there.
Yeah. So how long do they normally, to start to feel the benefit, how long would you recommend having them on?
I always tell people to start light, do like 5 minutes. You can always put them back on, but then see if the bruising's too dark. If the bruising isn't there at all, or it's light, you can go longer. But really, we're just trying to create that space. So that doesn't take that long. 15 minutes would be the long end. And that's after you've tried it a bit. You kind of know how your body responds.
Right. So so that should really help then with inflammation and everything in your body,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. And that's, one of those underlying things. We know if we get increased circulation, we're going to flush the tissue out, right? So any metabolic waste, any cytokines, lactic acid, any of those inflammatory markers should kind of be pulled out of the deeper tissue and kind of hanging out in between those layers where the body is going to like dump it into the lymph or recycle it back to the core of the body to get processed.
So it's yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would also be really great then for athletes and
Yeah.
stuff and getting all the
I
pretty much
think,
everybody.
yeah. And, Michael Phelps in 2016, his first marks all over him, standing on the pool deck. And the next day, our local ABC was in my office filming a piece on cupping. And why? Because what the hell was that? And and it's like, yeah, we do. He'd already been living in Arizona for years by then, though, too. Like no one wanted to talk. No, he's from Baltimore. Yeah, he hasn't been here for a while. No, he's from Baltimore. Okay, sure. We'll take the win.
Yeah, you get certain celebrities and stuff, and people follow, and then they're like, "Oh, now I need to know more because if it works for him, it must work for me."
And those things really do well. I mean, Gwyneth Paltrow, I think it was 2006. She was on it was before 2006 because I'd moved to Baltimore already. But I was training in New York, and she showed up to a red carpet event with the cupping marks on her back, and I go, all right, it wasn't as big of a blip as Michael Phelps,
right?
But it was enough where people who liked Gwyneth Paltrow knew that she'd done it. So I literally took my sign off the front, walked over to the sign store, and said, "Add the words cupping to this, please. Add that.
Add that on there."
Yeah, and it's something that has been around even longer than acupuncture. We're not exactly sure when it started. We know it's at least 5,000 years old. And it's spread all over the ancient world. Like I said, there wasn't a part, Asia, Africa, Europe, the Middle East, all were doing it for quite a long time. And we even have evidence that it was in South America for a really long.
Wow.
So, this is somebody's, this is like a universal heritage. It's nice to have something that we're not like fighting over where it comes from, because we honestly, that's lost the time,
Yeah. I mean, who cares if it works and it benefits you, then, it's neat to know, but
Yeah. And I speculate in the book a little bit about that. I don't get too heavy into it because it's, like I said, it's kind of lost.
Yeah.
We have some possibilities. It was somewhere Egypt, Middle East, Greece. We're not sure, but it from there it kind of went out to everywhere, and it was done in homes. One of my favorite things was when I was teaching in Manhattan. We get to cupping, and every grandmother, apparently, of every person in that classroom did cupping. It was like, and they did some of the classical fire stuff, which, like I said, you don't need to do today, but they all had a little twist. So, we use a torch and run it in and out of the cup real quick. But, all my Italian people said, oh, grandma would put a big coin on your back and then put a little piece of cotton with some high test brandy or something on it, and then light that on fire and then put the cup on, and then I had a Syrian student who said, well, the neck of the cup was longer, and they would take a piece of paper, roll it up into like a cone, light the cone end on fire, stick it in there, and then put the cup on. The fire never gets to you, but it creates that vacuum the same way. So the end of the day was create a vacuum and get the cup on, but the how was always a little bit different. Some people would just run rubbing alcohol on the inside of the cup, light that on fire, and then stick it on your back.
Yeah. Now that we keep mentioning vacuum, I can even see people running around like try and use their try and use your vacuum and see what you can do.
It was funny writing the book because even in the last few years, some electric models came and recharge them with a USB and the pump on the end of it. So I was like, wow, this is so not classical, but I bought a few of them and tried them out, and I go, well, they're not bad. Some of them are making crazy claims that like, oh, this one has heat, and I'm like, I don't feel the heat.
Yeah.
Or this one has red light therapy, and I'm like, that one little red LED. Knowing what I know about red light therapy, because we perform that in our office, this one's not doing the damn. But, they add it, so they claim it helps. But, for the right price, if you want to play with those too, a lot of them aren't too expensive, but you only get one for $20 instead of a kit of like 20 for 20,
Right.
which is so widely available all over the internet now. It's kind of nice. I want it to be accessible to people. And, even the book, it's 131 pages, I think, cover to cover. And it's meant to be read quickly, understood easily, and then most of all, used.
Used.
Put that knowledge to,
don't just
to the
stick
test.
it on the shelf, because it ain't going to help you that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, since you mentioned that, I was going to ask you. So I know you. So you are Charm City Integrative Health in Baltimore, Maryland.
Yeah.
So I know you have a multifaceted approach to healing. What sets your clinic apart?
So I think it's the combination of services, right? When we're like, I'll say this every time. First and foremost, I'm an acupuncturist. And when we look at the effects of acupuncture from a Western standpoint, classically we talk about qi and blood and the smooth flow of those two substances through health. What we're talking about when we do acupuncture is, one, I mentioned it before, regulation of the autonomic nervous system. Most of us are stuck in fight or flight mode. This helps us switch into rest and digest, and it happens after about 10 or 15 minutes, and we can double and triple up on that. The classics says where the chi goes, the blood follows. So we're dealing with blood flow, right?
Right.
If I can get fresh blood in, old blood out, and yes, it never fully stagnates. But if we can increase circulation to that area, we're going to get metabolic waste out of that tissue. We're going to get oxygen, nutrients, antibodies, hell, even drugs that are in your system to that tissue better. So we can promote healing that way. We see regulation of endocrine glands. We see regulation of neurotransmitters. So we're hitting all of these systems with acupuncture. So when we put together our clinic and we added a whole bunch of different services, in my head, they had to sound like acupuncture for the effect. So we have a sauna, we have red light therapy, right? And this is a kind of way to play with the light to increase circulation, heat to increase circulation. We then also have cryotherapy and cold plunge with the idea of like, let's quickly wring you out like a sponge, get the blood out of those joints that may be stagnant, inflamed. And when you get out, oh my God, I need to pump fresh blood in there because I thought I was freezing to death, right? So now we have fresh blood in that tissue. But the same goes for the cupping that we do. The same goes for the exercise with oxygen therapy. So we want to get excess oxygen into your body to help, kill bacteria, nourish tissues, help the cells make more cellular energy, right? And then we have a salt pod, right? So some people have a full salt room. You go in there and you inhale the salt. It's like spending a whole day at a beach in about 30 minutes. It dries out your mucous membranes, can fight certain bacteria. I should probably go in it today. I've already cleared my throat like 4 times on the show, but just to get some of that airway cleaned out. And that goes all the way deep down into your lungs. So I love a good neti pot, whatever you do to flush your sinuses out. And that uses salt too. Navage is nice. It's a fancy one. Although I'm a bit of the, I had the Neil Med bottles.
Oh, I had those too.
And it said, do it gently. And I'm like, oh, there's no way I'm doing this gently. Like I'm power washing my sinuses.
You pay for it if you don't.
Well, believe me, I'm like, should I hear that in my ear? I hear water swishing in my ear. but within that, this dry salt, we inhale all the way down into our lungs. So we're getting this deep lung thing. So we see it a lot for people that have chronic lung infections too. We have a lot of people using it for that.
So it's like COPD and
COPD, emphysema. Yeah, even cystic fibrosis, we have some people using it for.
Wow.
And once again, not saying it's curing that.
No.
But symptom management, reducing the inflammation in the lungs, allowing for more oxygen to pass through that membrane, super important for health.
Yeah, definitely. And we have more tips and techniques to share with you, but we are going to take a quick break from a word from our sponsors, and we're going to see a little bit more about Tom's clinic. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, we got soul. Oh, yeah, we got soul.
When you care about staying healthy or solving long-term health conditions to maximize your vitality, it can be life-changing. At Charm City Integrative Health, we serve patients looking to improve their overall health, including those seeking pain relief from acute and chronic conditions, and those needing relief from stress and anxiety. We even offer membership levels to maximize benefits. Call today for an appointment or visit us online to learn more about our clinic, staff, and services.
So, Tom, we were talking about various modalities and stuff that you have at your clinic. How do you integrate all of those to provide a holistic approach to wellness for people?
So yeah, I actually had a colleague on my show who developed the product in the UK, and he kind of poo-pooed this, but we use a term we call stacking, right? So stacking, if you're in the workout community or you're a bodybuilder, you understand a stack is like or things that you take to work out and kind of get a competitive edge. But that can be done with therapies too. So, when somebody comes in, we do an intake if they want us to, and kind of go over everything and put together services that, like, hopefully we're being really evidence-based, right? We know the services work. We have clinical research behind all of them. But we want to put together something that kind of like, okay, what are your health goals? Well, do you like heat? Well, no, I hate heat. Okay, well, the sauna's out, but we want to take into consideration our experience, wants, and desires, and put together a treatment plan for them that can be very unique, or that, they can come in and do things a la carte. It's weird to think of our clinic having a gym membership. But we don't get healthy off of one trip to the gym. We don't get healthy off of one, clean meal. And we're not healthy because we go to a checkup every 6 months and get blood drawn, and it's all within normal range, right? God, we could be within normal range for everything and wonder why we feel like garbage all the time. So for me, it was like, how do we put these things together and then get feedback from the patients? Right. That's a big part of it. Right.
Right.
You come in, and even if you tell one of our techs up front, hey, I'm not feeling this today, they're very possibly going to say, well, why don't we try this instead of that? Why don't, you sound a little congested. Maybe we'll throw you in the salt before we do something else. Right. And I want, all the treatment plans to be living, breathing things, because as humans, that's what we are. Yeah, and things can change daily. Things can change within a couple of minutes. And I want our center to be not just, I don't want to say reactive, but able to respond to that change in that individual's, health. Right.
So anyway, I had to smile, when I saw your, ad for the thing, because I've done those cryo tanks before. And you mentioned about people when you're doing the intake that they might hate heat or they might hate this, but hating something and having a benefit.
Yeah.
I mean, there's kind of a toss up to that, because I've done that. It was like 3 minutes, and you can remind me, because I don't remember how many negative degrees it goes, but you feel amazing when you get done.
It starts at negative 184 Fahrenheit, and it goes all the way to negative 256, right? And the whole reason you can do that and not get burnt or hurt is it's dry, and the cold plunge at 40 degrees is so much worse than the cryotherapy. And actually, in that commercial, that was my wife there. She hates cold, but every once in a while she gets in it.
They told me to just like breathe, and I just kept like walking around in like little circles and kept turning around. So I wasn't just standing still, because if you just stand still, it's 3 minutes.
We do the best to try and distract you.
Yeah. Yeah,
as
people
well.
normally stand there and talk to you, so keep your mind
Yeah.
off of how cold you're feeling. But all these things, though, basically, it comes down to a lot, does it not, to inflammation?
Yeah, I mean that's an underlying symptom, right? Like,
Hmm.
right, inflammation in different tissue is going to give you different expressions of that. But if you can get inflammation under control, and the closer back to the root, the healthier you're going to be. If you can get that under control, I mean, even things that we don't quote unquote have a cure for or a full treatment from, you can reduce those symptoms significantly.
Yeah, yeah. So, what ways do you see traditional practices aligning with modern research in the field of healthcare?
It's so funny because most of the research that's done in East Asian medicine was originally trying to disprove it, right? Like, this is garbage. Why are you guys all doing this? And now we have a body of evidence, and sometimes other health professions don't like when I say this, and I'm not saying it to take a swing at any of them.
Hmm.
But on the Cochrane database, we have more systematic reviews than physical therapy and chiropractic put together, and that's acupuncture alone, right? So that's not even the scope and breadth of East Asian medicine, because that includes, dietary and lifestyle changes, that includes meditation, that includes exercise like Tai Chi, Qigong, breathing exercises, and all of these other things, certain body work, cupping is part of that, moxa, bushed, and gua sha. And that whole base is a complete system that, when people see studies, they're like, well, they called it something weird, but it's actually doing what they say it's doing. And that, to me, is, well, of course, the Chinese are pragmatic. They're not going to keep something around that doesn't work.
Right.
And it's been around as a formalized system for at least 2,700 years. So it just, everything keeps just adding to that database. And I think, you know, it merges with modern medicine so nicely, because it's not this or that. It's
Right.
both. And when I started, I had doctors telling their patients, "Don't see him. I don't know if those needles are clean." And I'm like, they're they're from the same companies that you get your syringes from. It's like, what are you talking about? They're
Yeah.
disposable. They're single use. They're sterile. And now, I mean, in the last year, I've lectured at 3 med schools, for students, because they want a non-drug intervention for their
Yeah.
patients. They want something that is more therapeutic. They want something that is more embodied of looking at the whole picture than just, we see this one number wrong, how do we make that number right? And they get it, so I do think it's the system that we're in, and
Mhm.
we don't need to bash modern medicine right now,
Nope.
but within that, everyone's aware that these things are missing something when we don't look at that whole picture. And that's what a lot of these traditional practices do, right? They're taking into account your mood. They're taking into account your spirituality in some cases. It's a bit even further out there, but within that, all of that adds up to who you are, how you respond to treatment, what treatments are going to work best for you, what's not going to work for you. And, hell, you might just not like something hard enough that it won't work. You might like something enough that, even though there's no science behind it, it might actually help
Might
you.
actually work. Yeah.
Yeah,
Whether you want to call it a placebo effect or whatever.
and at the same token, why play that down? If you
Yeah.
can help somebody by convincing them they're better, then don't be a charlatan. Don't do it
Right.
intentionally.
No.
But my mentor, it's always funny. He always had a full practice, but he had a full practice because he had like 20 people like me running around behind him, telling everybody how great he was. Yeah, and he's, we asked about, like, how do you build a clinic? And he goes, look, you're starting out, you don't have the chops. Maybe you have a more comfortable table. Maybe you're playing better music. Maybe the lighting in your room is better, right?
Right.
And he was hinting at that placebo effect, right? If I
Mhm.
make you comfortable, if I make you relaxed, if you trust me more, if you enjoy while you're there, well, guess
Yeah.
what? There's value in that too.
Makes a big difference. And
Yeah.
it's nice to see some of it starting to come more together, because
Yeah.
as many people know, I am a Gen Xer, and back in the day,
Mhm.
doctors, it's like, oh, they wouldn't support anything if you went to a chiropractor or
Yeah.
something else, because that just wasn't the way. So it's nice to see it start to come together and have more people that are starting to support it more, and give people options, because it should be your option.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if there is something that somebody's doing that is like grossly wrong or dangerous, let the doctor call you on that. But, right now we all have something in our pocket that is more intelligent than anyone on the planet. We have access to all the information. So, some of it's biased, some of it's bad.
Yeah.
But within that, it's not a doctor knows everything now, and it should be a conversation about your health. And I think the younger physicians really are getting that, right? Because they know we're already fact checking, right?
Yeah.
You want to give me this drug? Look at all these side effects, and it's
Yeah.
it's not to have like some conflict with the doctor, but like, can we turn this into a dialogue? Look,
Yeah.
if I
Be
get on this
educated.
medication, how do I get off?
Right.
If I get on this medication, what can I do to improve my health elsewhere so I can then not need this anymore? And I think that's a really important thing because, yeah, you hit it right on the head. The Gen Xers were kind of the first to go, well, I don't want that to happen to me.
Yeah.
I don't.
It's still a 50-50 in that crowd, I think.
Yeah,
but it's
there's
just like,
some that's like, I'll just take the pill, and then there's like, wait a minute, hold on, you're telling me if I stop eating garbage?
Yeah.
Like,
I might feel better.
I might feel. Wait, hold on. If you're telling me if I get out and actually like maybe move my body,
Yeah.
you know. But it's, and I see it even with like the millennials and the generations that are younger. They're like, oh, I'm not going to do that. Why? So what happened to my parents and my grandparents? And it's like, okay, that's forethought,
Yeah.
So it's great.
Yeah. I think it comes down to education. We're not saying you're
Yeah.
going to go in there and butt heads and say, well,
No,
your degree
you don't
doesn't
wanna
mean
do that
nothing.
either.
I'm here
Yeah.
to tell you how to do your job. It's to be educated so you can have a more educated conversation, with your doctor or with whoever's helping you and supporting you, and not just taking everything at face value.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You mentioned meditation. So does meditation work really well with cupping?
So here's the crazy thing, and I'll say this about acupuncture because I don't have a study about cupping, but
Okay.
I would assume that cupping has a similar effect, right? We mentioned that fight or flight, rest and digest thing. During an acupuncture session, the brain waves that are made during a meditation session occur. So this kind of focus to like deep relaxations, this alpha delta kind of alpha gamma state fluctuation, that happens during acupuncture. And I would assume that's going to happen with anything that helps you relax. I mean, we could probably look at massage as well. But meditation for me is a cornerstone. I wish I was consistent sooner. I started playing with meditation when I was in high school, a little weird.
Yeah.
But never really took it seriously until about 5.5 years ago, and I haven't missed a day since. But even within that, the effects are subtle, right? You see it's building up in a lot of ways. Like a lot of traditional practices, they're not one and done, but they take some time and dedication to start to notice those subtle changes, to start to notice those improvements and the impact it has on your life.
Yeah. Everybody looks for an instant fix, but it's like you've been beating yourself up for years. You can't just, it's not a magic wand, but you would be on the path. It just takes time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as a clinician and an educator, what message do you aim to convey through your teachings, your writings?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is like you have so much more control over your health and over your life as a whole than you think you do. Right. And it's not always easy. Believe me, I'm looking at a pile of stuff I got to sort, and it's been months and I won't do it. But when we do decide to take control and take action, that's where we can really see a positive impact. Right. And that's on our mental health. That's on our physical health, all of it. And just make small, intentional changes. Don't expect to move mountains, but those will all add up.
Right. Yeah. And make note of the ones when they are, instead of just, oh, yeah, okay, I didn't feel better right away. That's not, like you said, it's the subtle changes. It's the little things. So how do you make all these complex theories and treatments more understandable for your patients and fellow practitioners?
I think, right. So there's, you have to realize that you can treat people like adults. You can talk to them like they're adults, but understand that they don't have like a master's degree and a doctorate in your subject, right? It's easy to talk down to somebody. But when we go from Chinese medicine to Western medicine, it's not a one-to-one correlation. So we have these ideas and concepts that are, if I stood them alone, they're going to sound so foreign. But if we can say, okay, so this is like, so we use a lot of analogies. We tend to try to bridge that gap where, look, we don't have exactly this hormone in Chinese medicine, but it kind of implies this channel system. And here's the things that we talk about. So it comes back to education. You know, I mean, you mentioned it before, but it's really, we need to educate people in a way that is not speaking a foreign language, you know?
Right.
And
Right.
I think that's it, right? Can I translate this into an understandable Western concept? And I think I do a pretty good job at that. You know, people, I normally tell them, look, I'm not the little Zen acupuncturist that's not going to say anything. I'm pretty loud. I'm going to make jokes. But I want you to understand what I'm doing because I think it works better, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Can you share maybe with us some of the things that you have seen cupping do for people or your patients?
I always throw my co-host Matt under the bus, right? He was bitching about this weird pain in his ribs for a few weeks. And I'm like, dude, just come down to the clinic. Just come down to the clinic, right? And he's keeps poking here, poking here, poking here. I go, okay, sit up. So he's sitting up with his shirt off, and I walk around to the back and I press on a spot. And he goes, what the hell was that, right? And I go, look, I think your rib's just a little out. And I put a cup on his back right next to his spine, and he goes, pain's gone in the front. And it was like it was when you hit those things, and this is a double-edged sword, right? Every once in a while you get this kind of like, oh, I didn't even expect that as the clinician, right? And then they tell people, and then I'll get a phone call like, well, I want to see you because you treated my friend and their back pain went away in one treatment. And then you see the person and it's like, oh, you've had 3 back surgeries. You're 60 pounds overweight. You don't eat any healthy. You're not doing yourself any favors. And
Right.
when I go, look, your friend like bent over and picked up a grocery bag that was full of veggies the wrong way. And that was a light sprain. Yours is a different condition, right? So sometimes that's a double-edged sword. When somebody gets that really good result and they refer to you, you're like, oh, look, that's great. And then at the same time, they send you like people that are like, but why am I not responding? And it's like, you're not the same person. This is similar pain, different injury, different lifestyle choices, right? So that is always funny to me where like you'll get this one crazy win and then like people are talking about you like, you start puffing your chest out, and then the next person that walks in is like, oh God, how are you even getting into this office? I can't imagine living in that much pain. And they want the same results.
That's why we're individuals and we're called individuals for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've been through some of those myself where I swear I thought I hit something against one of my concrete critters and I thought I chipped something on my ankle. And you go to physical therapy and he touched the bottom of my foot and I about flew off the table. It was a whole plantar fasciitis thing, but I was just like, I'm thinking, what are you doing at the bottom of my foot? It's my ankle. And whoop, nope. Apparently that was
that was enough.
It caused a problem because you compensate and then you create more problems. But
that's a good physical therapist too, because a lot of them, and I'm not knocking PT here, but like when they're those big chains, they go, oh no, this is the working diagnosis. I'm only going to look here because that's all insurance is going to cover, right? So when they do the detective work and they get to like the root cause, that's where we get the best outcomes. That's for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you take the time to get to know that person, individual, maybe somewhat about their history and, I know some things are genetics, but I don't subscribe to genetics because I think we have the power ourselves to change a lot and not just say, oh, well, this is what I'm destined for.
Yeah. And look, take that information and alter your lifestyle accordingly. So you don't have that same outcome, right?
Right.
That's the epigenetic part of it. Like make sure that trigger doesn't get expressed.
Right. Now you said you're co-host, so I believe that would be what the co-host of your podcast?
Yeah. Irreverent Health. I definitely curse a lot more on there. I've been doing my best to keep it clean, which is why I said garbage a couple of times. I don't know, like I never want to offend anybody, and I'm like, oh, I get pretty offensive. I was told that it was unprofessional to curse in the clinic. And during my doctorate, I had to observe, and I observed a functional medicine doctor. And I walked out. I'm like, he said the S word 15 times in that hour. I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
You know, like, that guy's a goddamn genius, and he's got a waiting list.
Yep.
So I'm just going to be me. You know, and as long as it's not offensive, you know,
People are going to resonate
yeah.
who they
Yeah.
resonate with, but if you're not yourself, I mean,
Well, you're not gonna
Yeah.
get anybody, and I know, like, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and I think that's a good thing, and I think that's why I have 3 other associates at my office. We all have a different demeanor, different look at how we treat, and a different look at how we interact with the patients.
Yeah.
But I think that diversity is key, because then you can find the person that you're supposed to see. You know,
I personally like open people and people that have a sense of humor, so makes it not so bad.
yeah, you know, you just don't want to put your foot in your mouth all the time. You know,
Yeah.
every once in a while, it's okay. It's humbling.
So tell us a little bit more about your podcast. What do you cover on there?
Yeah,
It's called
so
Irreverent Health.
It's called Irreverent Health, and we kind of, you know, my buddy Matt and I started it because we were both in this business group, and we both entered this business group at the same time. And what ended up happening is we kind of like hit it off, and we'd be sitting in the back of the room talking about supplements, or, you know, hey, this weird treatment that we tried. And next thing we knew, a couple of people would come over and they'd hang out and they'd listen, they'd ask questions. And one of I guess she was the organizer of kind of the, like, all the events and everything, was like, you guys should just record this. And then you know, all of a sudden COVID hits, and you're like, wow, we got some more time. So around 2021, we started hopping on Zoom and just recording it. And then we decided we were going to grow up and give it a go. And, you know, we have a dedicated podcast platform, and we're just around about 100 episodes recorded now. We tend to release them in blocks. You know, I know people do, like, this is episode 1, season 1, episode 12. And I'm like, no, we just kind of throw them up as we get, like, through them. You know, we both have day jobs, but we're trying to do more of this because we both love this space. But we like talking about where tech integrates with health. We talk about AI so much. I joke that we're going to have a buzzer that, you know, when somebody says AI, we'll see how quick we got to it. Psychedelic research is another big avenue for us. And then, you know, just anything that kind of tickles our fancy. We get out there, and, you know, we've, you know, I mentioned that I've had a consistent meditation practice. We landed the head of the Muse headbands, which are these ECG trackers that I've been using for years to help track my meditations. So we really like we like the gadgets, we like all of that. But we normally, if we don't have a guest, we're normally enjoying a whiskey, or marijuana's legal here. So
it's legal in a lot of places.
I will leave it at that.
Yeah.
Sometimes the episodes go a little slower. But, you know, we do a lot of stuff. We kind of jump around just because it's things that pique our interest. So we'll talk about a subject like, oh, hey, I've been playing with this supplement, or, you know, Matt got a concierge doctor. So we did a few episodes on what it's like to have a concierge doctor. And we've got a pretty strong network, so we tend to pull people in to discuss stuff. And I actually have about 3 emails to make to some people that we know after we hop off this call.
Nice. But it's good, though. I mean, you're passionate about it. It comes out. And the thing is it can still help people and be informative, and you're enjoying yourself at the same time. So,
yeah. I believe that's Ikigai. What's your passion? What do you enjoy? What it gets you excited? And that's what you're supposed to be doing. So,
well, yeah, if you're not, life is just way too short. Yeah. We have a few minutes left, Tom. So looking ahead, what do you envision as the future of integrative medicine and holistic wellness practices with our healthcare industry?
I really think, you know, I mentioned AI already. I really think I'm not one of these, like, yes, AI is going to cause some problems, but I think the pace at which the technology is moving will be able to solve them easier than it causing them. And I do think this integration of AI into modern medicine is going to lead to better clinical outcomes. It's going to lead to more personalized medicine, right? When we study something, whether it's a drug or a procedure, we want this huge subject group, right? We want N to be infinitely big. But when we're doing something to ourselves, if 90 people took this drug and they got amazing results, but that one person is you that didn't,
Right.
we don't want that. So I think we're going to have more insight. We're going to have more understanding. We're going to be able to customize and tailor our treatments better with using technology and AI.
Yeah.
And that's super exciting for me, even though I do something that's like 3,000 years old, and why the hell do I need technology? But it's gonna make better outcomes for all of us.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people are really scared about AI and stuff, but
rightfully so. I mean,
sure.
This is new.
Everything has its pros and cons. I think it's how you use it, what you do with it. I mean, anything you could get out of control if you let it.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. So I want to thank you. It's been a delight having you on here, and we will put this back up to make sure people know how to get a hold of your cupping book. So yeah, order. I like that fact that you broke that down too for people. So
trying to make everything as easy as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because sometimes you get people that talk and they talk in all these big scientific or doctor terms, and you're just like.
but what's the point? If you're not understanding what I'm saying, it doesn't even matter if I'm speaking English, right? And it's easy. Any person on this planet can make a test that no one else can pass, right? I can ask you something that you have no knowledge base on, but if we're trying to educate, you have to do that with like a kind of like, what would people understand easily? And it's not a mark of intelligence if you've never heard something before, like, right? That's not your fault,
right?
Oh, I don't know this advanced medical concept. Well, why would you? It's like, all right, so I'm not talking down to you. How can I put this in plain English so we can both understand it and have a conversation about it?
So for our people that are not in Baltimore, Maryland, do you work with people online? And
I do. I do more lectures, and if people want to hire me to consult in opening up their own center, I've done that a couple of times. That's a lot of fun. Because you can work with somebody to get their vision, right? So they're like, yeah, I'll tell you about the services I have, but what are you trying to do, right? And then we can help put together something. I love lecturing. I love doing speaking engagements. I love doing podcasts like this. I want to have meaningful conversations with people,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tom, is there one last thing that you want to leave the audience with before we go today?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it because I've been saying it a lot. Yeah, if you haven't started a meditation practice, please start. It can be, a minute or two a day, but consistency is the key.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I know we had a couple technical issues today. Well, we can say that now because we're done.
If we get it right, it'll cut me off right as we end, right?
That's okay. I appreciate you. Everybody, thank you again for watching. And if you have any questions or if you're in the Baltimore area, definitely look up Tom. Obviously, you can see he's easy to talk to. He's got a wealth of knowledge, more than we could possibly cover in this time. So definitely reach out, and we will see everybody next week. Thank you.